pays for title insurance in Florida is always a sore subject when I'm writing up a contract with either a buyer or a seller because they don't really understand what it does. The buyers want the sellers to pay and the sellers want the buyers to pay, and neither one want to incur the expense. But it's one of the most important things that you do in the process of legally closing on your property, and actually knowing who should pay for title is even more important. So in this video, I'm going to explain what title insurance does, who should pay for title and why, and tell you some stories that you'll remember why it's important depending if you're buyer or seller to pay for it. So come join me on this video. Hi, I'm Maria Wells, your real estate expert on the Treasure Coast of Florida, providing all sorts of information on neighborhoods, homes, and current topics in real estate. I would really enjoy hearing from you, so please comment below with any questions you might have on real estate, or if you're in the process of purchasing or preparing your home for sale, I might be able to even give you some additional information. So remember to hit subscribe and the notification button so that you'll receive my videos released every Tuesday. First of all, more times I am asked, what is title insurance and do I really have to have it? Well, first off, it's mandatory in the state of Florida, no matter if you're paying cash or if you're financing. Title insurance protects lenders and owners against any financial loss sustained from defects in owning the property. Well, you may be asking, like, what kind of defects? Well, let me tell you, you would be so surprised at what gets uncovered during a title search, and more about that later. I have some great stories for you. So, title insurance protects home buyers and mortgage lenders against defects or problems of title when there is a transfer of property. So, if there is a dispute or something that arises during that home ownership, the title company will make good of your property for any type of dispute that happens because they have insured it to cover it. Well, there's actually two different title insurance policies. So, one is if you are getting a loan, there is called the lender's title insurance policy, and that protects the lender up to the amount of the mortgaged amount that they put on that property. It's required by banks and other financial institutions, and it goes down in value as you pay off more and more principal on that loan, and it expires when the mortgage is paid in full. And this is typically the smaller fee on a closing statement because the search has already been done by the second one, which is the owner's title insurance policy. And this protects the owner in the equity of the property for the entire time that you own it. And it's purchased in the amount of the entire purchase price. So the cost of this can vary, but let me just tell you, for example, if you purchase in Florida a $300,000 home, you're probably looking at title insurance of about $2,000, just to give you a little bit of bearings. But trust me, you need to ask your realtor or closing agent to make sure you understand what the fee will be specific for you. What kind of defects can really happen, and what is a title company looking for? Well, they search to see, is who says they're the owner really the only owner? Is there someone else who is titled to owning the property? Are there judgments or liens if that home resides in a homeowner association or condo association? Are there any encumbrances within that association that's going to affect that home, or even when you as the buyer are going to transfer that property? The whole purpose of title insurance is to protect you as a buyer buying a new piece of property, that no one can ever come and set claims on your property, so that when you pay your money and you are then given keys, it is your home with no encumbrances. So who can do title insurance? Well, that can either be a title company, if that's all they do. It can be an attorney, either within a firm doing other things, or an attorney by themselves. So it just depends who you have selected to do title insurance. So I always recommend asking your realtor who they suggest, because every single property must have title insurance, and so think about how many times they have dealt with title companies, and they pretty much know who can do a great job. So let me tell you an interesting story so that you can understand what type of encumbrances could be on a property. So a few years back, I had this delightful man purchasing a property for cash, which I was so relieved, and I thought, well, this will be easy. Well, there are no easy closings. Once it went to the title company for a search, they found out that the current owner of that that property, who was deceased, had 3 wives. Guess he was busy. But anyway, each of them had died. And he always made sure that the current wife had ownership to the property doing a quitclaim deed, but he did it himself. He never made sure when he passed it to another wife or another wife that there were no claims on the estate from the previous wife's heirs. So when we found this out and I realized that we had to go back to all 3 deceased wives to get their heirs assigned, I thought, oh my gosh, this is never going to close, right? It ended up happening that the attorney went back to each of those 3 families. Each of them signed off, and because of their diligent efforts, guess what? We were able to get that property closed, and my buyer, who was a delight, was able to end up with the property. This leads me into who should pay for title. Well, in Florida, the one who pays for title is the one represented. So if you think about it, it makes sense for the buyer in most cases to pay for title insurance because you're represented. Just think about my buyer I just mentioned. If he hadn't paid for it, would he have had the same result? I don't know, but he paid for it, he was represented, and he did it. I will tell you, almost every single closing I've had recently, there has been some sort of defect on the title. For instance, child support, previous mortgages that weren't paid off, or they might have been paid off, but a satisfaction hadn't been recorded in the county, and the list can go on. So I'm just telling you, you never know what you might find. So in these circumstances, if at all possible, don't just use it for a negotiation tool. Even though that's great, do it for the right reason. Pay for title if you are a buyer because you're the one who's got the biggest investment. Now, there are some exceptions to that rule. If you are a seller who is dealing with an estate, maybe you're a trust or personal representative or whatever, and you're working with an attorney to settle that, it may be best to have you pay for the title insurance to make sure everything goes smoothly with the probate, heirs, and trust. So that would be the exception to the rule for the seller to pay. I'm hoping now you have a little better understanding of what title insurance is, the reason for either the buyer or seller to pay, and the benefit to you. And so let's go watch this video on the 6 tips you need to know to avoid delays when closing on a house. I'll see you there.